the people who are going to go above and beyond, those are the ones who are going to get the opportunities. Like I get a lot of questions from people who ask like how I got into TikTok or how I got into these other opportunities. And it's because like I went above and beyond. Like I didn't stop. Like there was no limit for me. I wanted to show them how badly I wanted it.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to another episode of Make Up Your Mind. Today, I'm joined by another very special guest. We have the very special Jade Walters from the ninth semester, which is a business and a brand that she founded. If you are anywhere on LinkedIn and you're anywhere in the Gen Z career development space, there's no way you haven't run across one of her posts, whether it's a funny meme, an instructional post that tells you exactly how to land a job, or potentially even a brand partnership. It has just been dominating the space. So I'm so excited she's here today to share some of her insights about what it's like to be a Gen Z founder, a thought leader, and paving her own way in her career. So Jade, welcome to the podcast.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So nice to chat with you all today. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Well, if we just go ahead and dive right into it, like I was saying, you're the founder of the ninth semester, and you talk a lot on social media about building your brand and paving your own way to land opportunities at TikTok, Bumble, and so on. So I would love to know, how did the ninth semester begin? Were you in college? Were you in your full-time 9 to 5? And what made you pursue that?
Yeah, so I actually started the ninth semester unknowingly in March 2020. I was preparing for
Mm,
an internship interview with Twitter, and I just got really into just interview prep because like I really wanted the opportunity. So then I came across these post interview questions and just like started to strategize how I was going to interview prep, and then I figured like I'll share it on Twitter. And my posts with those questions went really, really viral, and then I was able to share more of my insights on just like how to interview prep. Because for me, I've always been into professional development. Like I've done internships since I was high school. In high school, I'm in a professional development. I'm in a professional business and professional sorority called Iota Phi Lambda, and I learned a lot. And through around that time too, it was like right before the pandemic hit. But when the pandemic hit, and then everyone's trying to figure out their new career journeys or they're getting laid off, a lot of people were turning to the internet for career advice and resources. So I was encouraged to turn my Twitter thread into an ebook. So I started my ebook, The Ultimate Guide to Acing Your Interview. And that actually went really viral throughout the pandemic, and it was very sustainable. And that's when I was like, I actually really like talking about career and development. And I have another blog called Love Jake Carson, where at the time it was a college and lifestyle blog. So I was sharing a lot of my personal life, but then I started to share some of my professional content. And at that same time, I was starting to post a little on TikTok. So a few months after, when I graduated from Howard, it was around August 2021, I decided that I was going to turn the ninth semester into its own thing. Like I wanted Love J. Carson to just focus on me. But the ninth semester, I started to see that people were interested in that. And at first, I actually was very hesitant on even starting the blog because I'm like, oh, what if no one really cares about career and stuff? But people actually ended up caring. And I came up with the name the ninth semester when I was kind of thinking like there's like 8 traditional semesters of of
mhm.
your college year, and then that ninth semester you're graduating, you're figuring out how to be a young adult, and then also figuring out your career. So I created that platform, and at that same time, I was relocating from New York City to Chicago to work at TikTok as a client solutions planner. And I just continued to grow my brand, and it's just been great because for me on the other side too, I was also making a career pivot myself. Like I studied maternal and child health, and then I decided I wanted to work in marketing within the tech world. And I was trying to navigate and look up resources for myself, and there weren't a lot of early career resources for Gen Zers. So on one end, I saw the ninth semester as a platform for me to share all the knowledge that I've shared and kind of like send out elevator back down with knowledge and resources. But on the other end, I was trying to get into early career recruiting. I couldn't get in because I didn't have enough traditional experience. So I saw the ninth semester as a way for me to create that experience. So I always like to say it as no one gave me a seat at the table, so I created my own table. And through there, I really educated myself a lot about early career recruiting, and those same organizations that I tried to work with before, I have now worked with them to sort of capacity as a consultant or sharing their program. So it's been very full circle, and also just affirming knowing that I have this platform that is just mine and it's able to sustain me as a creator in my life, and it's also helping other folks too. Like it's more than just a blog. Like it has really been a pivotal moment in my life and my career so far.
Yes, it's a content marketing and business engine and way more than just a blog. And it's funny that you talk about, growing on Twitter because it's in 2020, I remember seeing your content pop up on my For You page on TikTok.
Mhm.
And I remember also thinking the ninth semester, that's such a clever name because I was in my first year postgrad at that time. And so it did feel like my ninth semester and trying to figure out the adulting world. But you're also one of the first people who I've met or interviewed who has blown up from Twitter and then emerged that into a blog. But cheers again to really figuring out how to build your own table and position yourself to be a consultant for these brands that you would work with now. And so you mentioned that you were in maternal health and that was what your degree was in, and then you worked at TikTok. So can you dive into a little bit more of the specifics of how you were able to position yourself for the position at TikTok? Because it's a little bit different than early career development now, right? So what did that look like?
Yeah, so at the time, it was July 2021. TikTok had just released their TikTok Resumes pilot program, and it was a new initiative for the platform where they teamed up with a few companies such as Abercrombie, Chipotle, Target, and other organizations where the applicants, they'll create a TikTok video resume and they'll submit that with their application. So I had applied for a few of those, and TikTok actually wasn't one of the companies that you can apply for. But when I posted that video, it was going viral on TikTok, and then I was posting it on Twitter, and it did really well. And same thing with LinkedIn. And then that's where I had that idea where I was like, I really want TikTok to see this. Like, I want to be able to connect with someone. Like, it would be really cool if I just could get an opportunity there. So, some way, somehow, I can never remember. I was connected on LinkedIn with one of their university recruiters. So, I decided that I was going to shoot my shot because at the same time as videos going viral, it's also being picked up by a few different publications. So, it got picked up by the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, NPR. So me and my marketing brain, I'm like, I'm bringing this organization free PR. Like TikTok at that
Mm-hmm.
time, it was really doing really well, so they didn't really need it. But I know for every company, like it's important. And at the time too, I was working a PR internship, so I was starting to understand like the nitty gritty and like the importance of your brand showing up. So I slid into the DMs of the recruiter and I just like shot my shot. Like it was a long message. It is not even the type of message that I would recommend people to say, but I knew that the biggest thing that was going to capture her eye was the video resume. And literally that same day, she was like, yeah, absolutely. She connected me with her colleague. And then I had a recruiter phone screen. And at the time, they were hiring for the client solutions planner role, which is a typical entry level role at TikTok. And then I ended up within a month, I had about 4 to 5 interviews, and then I had my offer, and I went from having no prospects for my early career. Because for me, I was doing my internship, but I didn't have a full time job. I was applying, I wasn't hearing back. Like I was struggling on my job hunt, especially as I was pivoting, especially knowing that my background was so different. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, that video that helped me a lot through my interviews, but then also just doing a lot of prep. Like I knew that I was going to be an unconventional candidate because I didn't have that traditional ad sales, media sales background that other applicants had. So as much as I leaned on my resume, I really leaned on the fact that I did my research and that I was a genuine fan of TikTok as a product. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to spend too much time focused on the fact that I didn't have the traditional experience, but I wanted to shine as being the most researched candidate, but then also someone who went outside of the box. So that's when it comes to like standing out for that. I showed them how badly I wanted it that I was willing to do something untraditional. And I still submitted an actual traditional resume with my video resume, but I went an extra step. Like I didn't want to just stop at the video going viral. I wanted to make sure it got in the hands of someone that actually could play a role in me getting a role at that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best examples of time and preparation meeting opportunity, like the perfect formula for luck per se, because I think during that time TikTok was seen as just a dancing app, but you putting yourself in the forefront and literally putting yourself in front of hundreds or thousands or however many people saw that video, it showed the hiring managers, okay, this is a serious candidate And also, I read this stat that was like basically the person who gets the job is the one who wants it the most. And now people are saying the best ways to land a job, especially in this market, is to create a video. Would you still recommend that? Or have you seen this working as an early career expert? Like, what would be your advice when it comes to pitching yourself now?
I think at its core, they're always going to want you to follow the traditional steps, which is those traditional application materials. So for me, yes, I had the video resume, but I also had the traditional resume that I submitted. So it's kind of iffy because for me, it was also very on brand with TikTok. Like I created a TikTok to apply for TikTok. Like it just
Yeah.
in itself was so meta. So I've seen other people do it similar, like for Spotify, like they would create like a playlist, but then they'll also have their resume or they'll also have like a portfolio. So I think while you should invest into creating those creative things, whether it's at your portfolio or like a video resume, make sure that your traditional stuff is tip top because that's what they're going to view first. Usually they're going
Hmm.
to see, they may see the traditional stuff and then they'll look into other things. But it's also just a matter of how you submit it. Like I saw this one TikToker, she was applying for jobs and what she did for every job in the section where it was like, oh, if you have any additional materials, whether it's like a link or your cover letter, she would create like a mini pitch deck, which was like pitching herself to the company. She made it very customizable to them. I believe she also shared like some ideas she may have had for the position, but then it was also just
Right.
like her professional portfolio where she was able to add those visuals into the things that she had on her resume. So I know for her, she mentioned that personalized approach of creating that application material. And then even post her interviews, she would create a little video thanking her interviewers for their time. And just like little things like that, that helps you stand out as a candidate because not a lot of people are doing that. And if they are, they may not be doing it as well as you can. Like they may think they may not go as far as they could, like going back into like the candidate who wants it the most. Like I think for me, like I wanted it so bad that I made it a video resume. Wanted it
Yeah.
so bad that I hunted down this recruiter. I wanted it so bad that I did so much research. I knew the product, I knew the company like the back of my hand. That's how you stand out by being the most like you got to show them how badly you want it. Like you got
Yeah.
as much as whatever your peak is to show how badly you want something, that's how you're going to do it when it comes to approaching the job hunt.
Yeah, 100%, especially now, because it is not easy right now. And, there's an overall sentiment that you shouldn't care too much about your work or you shouldn't have to beg for a job, which I don't think it should be as difficult as it is right now to get a job. But there's a decreasing amount of, I think, care towards people's professional careers. And basically, a lot of times people are de-pedestalizing it, right? Taking it off that pedestal. And it's like you really have to put it back up on that pedestal if you want the opportunity, because a lot of other people aren't going to put in the effort, or like you said, making the video resume or even sending that pitch email, which you recognize now wouldn't be the exact same pitch email that you would send right now, but it's still making waves.
Mm. I agree. I think because I understand different
Yeah.
sides of it. I'm also a Libra, so I always understand different sides. But I think I it's hard because it's like you
It's hard.
shouldn't have to do all these different things, you
Right.
jump all these different hoops to get one job. But in a market this competitive, you're
You
going to
have
have
to.
to. And I think and it also depends on the type of companies that you are applying for. Like not to say that small and mid-sized level companies that you're applying for don't deserve as much attention and just care when it comes to the process from you. But if you're trying to apply for the Googles and the Netflix of the world, you need to be the best one because
Exactly.
the best people are applying for those opportunities. They're not playing it short. They're not coming in cocky and thinking, "Oh, I got an interview. I just, I can just ace it." Like they are going in swinging up until I would even say up until they sign that offer, up until they literally have their seat, their butt in a chair in front of that work laptop or in their office because that's when you actually know, okay, I actually got the job and I'm here. So it's like the people who are gonna go above and beyond, those are the ones who are gonna get the opportunities. Like I get a lot of questions from people who ask like how I got into TikTok or how I got into these other opportunities, and it's because like I went above and beyond. Like I didn't stop. Like there was no limit for me. I wanted to show them how badly I wanted it. And when you get the job, you can kind of like tone down a little bit. Like you don't have to be like on 10 all the way, but like nowadays in this job market, you're gonna have to be the best of the best up until you get into the office. And it is a
Yeah.
lot. Like it's not an easy thing. Like I remember I spent hours preparing for my TikTok interview and a lot of prep, and but then I also had a lot of supportive people along the way. Like one thing I will say is like, especially for these larger companies, there are people who have done that role that are willing to help you, that are willing to give you directions on the interview process. And it's like you have to ask like, you there have been interviews in my life where I'm like, I've found people who did the role and I'm like, hey, I'm applying for the same role that you did. Any pointers, any directions? Do you remember any of the questions that you asked? Like any inside
Hmm.
info you can get it. And it's also online too. Like a lot of like Reddit threads or Glassdoor threads, you can find the questions and the resources to prepare for these interviews. And it goes into, you want it so bad that you are going to do so much research and so much work to find it and find the answer to
Yeah.
help you.
It's like getting into an Ivy League. It's sometimes it's more competitive than getting into an Ivy League because you have to have the best resume. You have to have all the questions. Like the amount of prep and months of work, it's equivalent to the percentages of people that only get into these top institutions, which is why it's so difficult right now. But moving on, I saw something really interesting on your TikTok. And so basically you were talking about how at your first opportunity you landed a job at that was 65K. And you got some pushback from that, which I was really surprised about because I feel like 65K, especially in this economy, first opportunity at a school, I feel like that's a really great opportunity, right? So, what would you say to people like trying to figure out their first new grad opportunity, their first salary when it comes to negotiating? How do they know it's a great offer and what they should or shouldn't accept?
So for that particular opportunity, it was like a tweet that was going around about like people, new grads not taking 65K offers and me providing the perspective to convince them. Because for me, like my role at TikTok, I was making 50K. And people, because I understand wanting to make a lot more money, but there's just so many different nuances to it. For me, with that 50K salary, I felt very, very rich. And some factors that went into it for me to accept that salary. One, I did make the mistake of not negotiating that, it was my first job. I was excited to have something and they were able to support me in the ways that matter. So for that case, one, it's a large company like TikTok. So I knew then starting my career there, long term, I will continue to see the effects of that. I am continuing to see the effects of that in a positive way. Two, I wanted to be in a city that I could afford to live in alone. I grew up in New York. I knew how expensive it was to live in New York. And as much as I would have loved to live there post grad, I wanted to live alone. And I know I couldn't do that with a 50K salary. So I chose Chicago because, yes, it is expensive and it is a city, but I knew I would have a better luck finding it. So when it came to deciding those factors, on whether or not I should accept that offer. It depended on, can they bring me to the city that I want to be and provide assistance, which they did. They provided relocation assistance. Is the work that I'm doing exciting, which is a big factor, and then just also the the work model too. It was still remote, but I was thinking long term, and I when you come from college, you're not making that much money anyway, even when you were in school. So like you kind of were still in that mindset of like, I could rough it out. Like I could have a few nights of ramen. Like it's okay. Like it's not the end of the world. So for me, like I remember I gladly took that offer. They helped me relocate to Chicago. In those first few months, it was literally just me in this empty apartment, a bed, but I was hustling. I was in a new environment. I was starting a new career. Like I know over time things will fall into place. So with a 65, if I got a 65K offer at Postgrad, I I would have been so happy. Like people don't realize like 65 depending, it also depends. There are a lot of factors. It depends on where
Hmm.
you're living. Like if I'm pretty sure for that role in New York, it was way more. So like those salaries, it can matter. But if you're taking 65K and you live in like Nebraska, That is a lot of money.
Yeah.
The cost of living stretches. So I think for candidates, it's important to remember like that is the lowest amount of money you would ever make in your career. It only
Crazy.
goes up from there. Like since then, like my first post grad role, I was making 50K at TikTok. My next role, I was making 90K. And on my next role, I already know I'm gonna do what I can to get in the six figures. So it's like you don't just try your best to remember that it's going to get better. You're going to make more money. And sometimes you have to make sacrifices. Like if you get this offer and you want to live in a big city, like you cannot take a 65K offer and live in a high rise in New York City because that is your whole check. Like you have to be
No.
realistic. Like I love my apartment. It's not a high rise, but it's a beautiful apartment in the city. I'm 20 minutes from downtown. I remember then, like, I was living a great life. I had a great social life. Yes, sometimes I would feel like I was a little broke, but like everyone, it gets deeper. Like, one, you have to really consider your personal needs and what you need. And I chose that offer because it hit the things that I needed for me in my life at that time. And as a new grad, if you are lucky to where you don't have many responsibilities, 65K could go a long way.
Very far. Very far. No, I 100% agree with you. My first job out of college, I think I was getting paid like 40K. But at the same time, I lived in Alabama and I was living at home with my parents.
Mhm.
So I didn't have to pay for rent. It went a far away. And so it really does depend on your circumstances and where you live and what industry you're in. Because I feel like for a blanket statement, 65K, it's hard to understand if you don't know exactly like what your industry is, what industry standards there are. So for example, in sales, you can be making 65K base and then have a 20K commission and it's 85K right out of school, right? So it just really does depend. But speaking of, and just like the finances and being able to live, you are now, you've been building the night semester for a while. Also your blog, Love Jade Carson, and you've been able to get these brand opportunities. And like you mentioned, build it into a real business that can sustain you. So a lot of people right now, you have to have more than one income to survive. Like a lot of these salaries, which is also why I understand that people might be like 65K isn't enough because in a lot of places is just isn't livable. But you are having multiple streams of income. Can you sort of talk about the evolution of the business side of your blogs and your businesses and what it looked like to get your first brand deals and actually making it a real revenue generating engine?
Yeah. So with Love Jade Carson, I kind of started with campus ambassador work because and that's like a form of like influencer, so I was able to get some supplemental income there. And then I was also a part of her campus and they have something called campus trendsetter, so occasionally you'll get like brand deals from there. So that's where I kind of started dabbling in it. But for me, my approach with content creation, I was just my content creation has always just been for me. Like I didn't care about the ads or I didn't care about making money. But it wasn't until I was doing the ninth semester where I realized that this could be I can bring in some revenue. And I remember for my first brand deal, I was because at the time like I was always just like sharing opportunities and I was sharing a few campus rep roles. And there was one program in particular that I shared and it did really, really well. And I knew that just from being in the campus influencer space that you can get referrals sometime for referring someone into those programs. So I went out of my way and I pitched myself to the agency that ran that campus rep program, and with them I was able to set up a referral system for bringing in applicants because I had a lot of people that were actually applying for the role when I
Mm-hmm.
posted it. And I was like, you know what? I can make some money for this. And at that time, too, I was moving to Chicago. I had no savings, no money. Like, I needed some money. And for me, I've always been a hustler. Like, I come from a family of hustlers. So I've always
Yeah.
made some change,
New
some
Yorkers.
strange change. Like, there are so many ways to make money on the internet. And that's like my biggest
Yes.
thing I remind creators. Like, there I haven't even tapped into all the ways that I could be making money, but I started off making my money through those referral systems with agencies. And then for some of the brands that I wanted to work with, like it was two different ways. One, I will look at other creators in the career space and see the type of brands that they were working with and try to find a contact or some way to get in contact with them. And there's also a lot of videos on TikTok about how to find brands and how to pitch yourself. So I watched a lot of that. I started creating my own media kit and my pitch deck or like the emails that I want to send. And then for some brands, I literally slid in their DMs. Like for all the major like Gen Z job boards in the space, like Handshake, Jobwell, Way Up, I literally slid in their DMs and I pitched myself and I told them who I was and what I was about. And then like I made sure to follow them. Like the brands in the space that I work in as a career creator, I wanted to make sure that I showed up in front of them. And because of
Yeah.
that, and because I was going on my way to pitch myself, that eventually led to brand deals. So in the beginning, a
Yeah.
lot of my brand deals came from me going out to the brands and pitching myself. And it was as simple as like just in the Instagram DMs. And then I kind of directed to the email, like, because that's where I can send them my media kit and my formal pitch deck. But like, you just got to get into the weeds and just start shooting your shot. Like I've always had that shoot your shot mentality. Like that helped me get TikTok. That was helping me get brand deals. And now I'm in a position where the deals are coming to me and I don't have to go out and source. But even then, especially now that I'm doing this full time, I'm going back into that mindset because it's fun. Like seeing your brand and your business as a business. Like I'm a business, I'm the product. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to try and find customers. So
Hmm.
it's just very fun to just like put yourself out there, shoot your shot. Like sometimes there's some, you may get no's, but sometimes it could be a not yet. Like I've had a few brands. Like I remember there was one, I wanted to work in for a while. And it was like saying, oh, not yet. Now's not a good time. And then eventually they came back to me. And then the deal was way bigger than I could have imagined. So it's a long game, but it's like you in the beginning, you have to start hustling. And then as a creator, it also depends on your niche too. In the career space at that time, and even still now, is not as saturated compared to like lifestyle, where it could be a bit
Hmm.
harder. But I'm in a unique niche where it's like, it's not that competitive. I know a lot of my peers in this space and a lot of creators too, they can be very opening. Like I've had creators share, contact information or pitch on behalf of me to the same brands that I was interested in working with. So it's like the importance of building community too and other people where you can share your resources is helpful as a creator, especially as you want to get more brand deals.
Yeah. No, shout out to you, Jade, because it's like you walk the walk and you also don't shut opportunities. You don't close the door on the people coming up behind you because you're so generous with your information, and you've also put me onto some opportunities, which I'm thankful for, and partnerships that I've
Yeah.
loved. So yeah, just people in the space. I think for anyone listening, if you're looking to get into brand deals, people in the space are so kind and generous with their knowledge, and they want to see everyone succeed. And I feel like there's such a great camaraderie when you're able to just share these resources so that everyone's getting a piece of the bag so that we can all move up, because like you said, at the end of the day, it's about being a hustler. So when it came to it and pitching these brand deals, did they start off as gifted collaborations? Did they move first as paid collaborations? The ones that ended up saying yes, what did that look like?
So in my space, there aren't really a lot of gifted collabs. I do, as I'm trying to incorporate more lifestyle content, I would love to do more gifted stuff. But it usually started off with, my main deliverables were my TikTok videos. So just being upfront about prices. And over time, like my prices have changed. And because as a creator, especially when you're new into this, it's hard to try and figure out what are your prices, how much you should charge. So there's a lot of research. Like I remember then, like I think for my first deal, I got $500 to do 4 videos, and that was highway robbery. But I didn't know any better, and it was my
They were
first.
wrong for
That
that.
was like they were wrong for it. But now I'm at a space where I know my worth, and I'm charging more, and I could be charging even more than I'm charging, but I know that it takes time, and there was also a lot of resources. Like there are so many creators on TikTok that give you like legit resources on how to charge, what does it mean to set these different rates, what you should be including in your rate. So I had to continue with that education to do that. And I still do that now. Like, even if sometimes you might have to invest in one of these creators' ebooks, because sometimes all this information isn't free. But there's one creator, I hate that I can't remember her name, but she's a travel influencer and she has an ebook that really talked about like, because I'm trying to like get into like in that space, but really gave like the things you need to know about setting rates as a creator and all the logistics that go into like being a creator, being a business. And it was an expensive ebook, but it was worth it. And things like that. Like sometimes you have to spend money to make money. And that was something
Exactly.
I had to understand in for the business that I'm trying to grow, and it's worth it. Like, and I'm grateful that there are other creators who have been doing this longer than me that are willing to share their advice and keep it honest. Like even people I've met, like when I do speaking engagements and I meet other people who have been doing entrepreneurship for a while, like they give me a lot of free game, and it's just so appreciative, especially as a Black creator, to make sure that we are getting paid our worth.
Yes, getting paid your worth. And also, it really is that sometimes you have to spend money to make money. And usually, what that ebook will cost, that $50 or however much they're paying for it, your brand deals will end up being four-figure brand deals. So it pays for itself right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a part of a couple communities and I've gotten information and they've already paid for themselves like 10, 30, 40 fold, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that especially when you're younger, investing in yourself can feel daunting because you don't realize investing in yourself also means investing in yourself professionally. But I feel like you're one of the best examples for it because you've invested yourself in a lot of different ways, whether financially, through your brand, your time, and also pitching yourself. Okay, you're the pitching queen based off of, the brand deals and building a business for yourself to even getting the job opportunities that we talked a little bit about earlier. So if there was someone up and coming in their career, up and coming in content creation, what are your do's and don'ts of a perfect pitch?
Mm-hmm. Perfect page definitely includes stats. Like I always made sure it includes stats of my demographics as well as stats of just like my follower accounts and my most active pages. It's also great if you can to have like maybe 2 to 3 of your best examples of your content. Like for me, I have a full media kit. Like sometimes some people just have one pagers. I do a lot of awesome stuff and I love details. So my media kit is a 8 page PowerPoint slide, but people do read it, and I make sure to keep it high level. Like what I always do, something that's really helped, and I got this from another creator friend of mine, Piper Phillips. She would have a custom pitch deck for a company, and then she'll have like a slide or two with like the actual ideas. So that's something that I've been able to do. Like if I were to slide in the DMs of a brand, like I'm working on one right now that whose DMs I slid into, I'm going to send them a custom pitch deck of the ideas that I know that I want to do with them. Because that also just shows how willing you're really, how you're ready to work. Like I already have ideas.
Yeah.
I just need the AOK, a contract, and some send an invoice, and we can create this content. So it's just like kind of going in with that business mindset, and it can be helpful too if you have like calls, because sometimes I do have calls with brands before we have a deal. I have my pitch deck that now I can share ahead of time, so they can look at my stats, my demo, my best examples, and my ideas. I never share my rates in my deck because every company is different. So that's another thing. Like another do is to evaluate who you're working with, because the rates that I may have, like my rate, something I'm trying to become firm in is like my rates are my rates, but also I'm willing to negotiate because I know that a
Mm-hmm.
nonprofit may not have the same budget as a larger corporation, but I'm going to be upfront about what my rates are, and we're going to meet a rate that is fair for both of us. But then a don't that I would suggest is, hmm, good question. I think for a don't, definitely don't be too vague. Like your pitch, like
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure that you're selling yourself in the best way possible. So details matter, but you don't want to have like a full essay about your life. Like I think for me when I do my pitches, it's like just depending on how we met. If it's like a cold outreach, it may be like a little longer. But if we connected in some other way, then like I can kind of condense it because like we have some sort of like context about what it would be. But just don't be afraid to ask. Like even if some people say no, like you never know, because sometimes it could just be not yet. Like I
Right.
find that a few times, and it's sometimes those opportunities when they do come back, it's way better than you could have imagined.
Well, yeah. A no now, this is something we would always say in sales. A no now isn't a no forever. And I think that an important piece to that and like what you brought up is just like staying firm on your rates and making sure it's equitable, especially if you're a person of color, you're a minority, you're a Black woman. Statistically, you're getting paid less in all these different fields,
Yeah.
right? So you need to know, you need to be standing firm on your rates. And sometimes it's really about setting your rates astronomically high, and then they sort of wean it down and you're like, okay, like how much can I actually charge here? One time I sent a rate that was like crazy to me and they accepted it. And I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had,
And
yeah.
I've done that sometimes. And that's another advice that I got from one of my creator friends is just like
Yeah,
remembering that, especially if a brand comes to you, like they want to work for you. Like they want to work
exactly.
with you. They could be worried that you might say no to them. So set a rate.
Yes.
Sometimes I just throw out numbers and then they say yes, but like it's the worst when you throw out a kind of a low number and they say yes, and it's like, dang, I should have said more. Like, but just start throwing out rates. Just like,
Yeah.
but some for me, because I was always worried. I'm like, oh, what if I set a rate and then they want me to justify why that's my rate? And or like, because
Hmm.
sometimes something I don't really like sometimes is when a brand wants to see like all your stats and like, oh, can you show me like the most 30 days of your impressions, things like that. Because sometimes it's just like these numbers are important to an extent, but it's also just like anything could happen. Like my rates, I mean, my impressions and stuff from the holidays will be different than my typical rates. Like it was the holidays, I was slowing down, but I think I had to let go of that mindset of worrying that they're going to question me further on why my rate is the way it is. But my rate's a rate because one, I know that I'm going to produce great content, and two, I'm knowing my worth, and then also like not to say anything negative about other creators, but sometimes I would see some ads where it's like they didn't even like the camera. They're in their bathroom, the mic is muffled, and I just know that they got $10,000 for this video. So it's like
And it's a front camera.
exactly. It is like if other creators like that, if they can BS and give low quality work and still make the money, I deserve to make the money too. And I know that I'm going to
Yes.
produce a great amount of work. And that's just to who I am as a person. Like when it comes to anything with my
Yes.
name attached, I don't play. I am a perfectionist. So I had to let go of this like worrying about followers or worrying about how much my rate is and if I'm going to have to justify it, and just know that the work that Jade Walters is going to produce is going to be great and it's going to be worthy of how much I'm charging.
Yes, yes, 1000%. And it's like you're saying, it's a testament to who you are, because that's exactly the same sort of mentality you brought to negotiating your offers, to applying to the jobs that you had right out of college, just having that business mindset of, this is what I bring to the table. I know that I want this. I know that I can deliver at this level, and, take it or leave it.
Mhm.
Essentially that's what it is. Now in your career, you've transitioned to being a full-time entrepreneur. And how's that been like? Because you've been balancing your business on the side as a 9 to 5 employee with these businesses, and now you're doing this full time. So how has that been?
Yeah, so this is my second time doing this. I did this in 2023 for about 3 months before I got my last role that I recently left. And I remember when I did it then, I was worried, I was nervous, I had no savings, but everything started to fall into place and the business it was growing, but it's not like how it is now. So going into this, I had to remind myself, even though I had those same worries and those fears, that I'm going into this with knowledge. Like I'm going into this
Right.
knowing how to navigate it. And now I'm just at peace. Like I it's my third week and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I do get worried. Like I remember for in January, like I was really worried about like finances and that was something where it's like yes I did have a little bit more savings saved up than what I did before, and I had brand deals that were coming in, but I really had to be honest with myself and tell myself to calm down because sometimes I just get too anxious and worried and overthink, and it was starting to take a toll on me. So I had to really make sure that I was taking every day step by step for my sanity. And I prayed a lot. Like I believe in God and into my faith. So I was praying and just asking God to just like handle everything. And things have been falling into place. And I'm in my third week and I feel peaceful. Like and I still feel like I'm working. Like I have meetings and calls and contracts to review, and it's like it's great because it's my business. Like I'm not reporting to anyone, but it's also like you have to hold yourself accountable because it's Wednesday and Monday and Tuesday. I I kind of was on vacation. Like I did a little work, but I had just came back from another speaking engagement, and it's times like this where I get to be reflective. Like I literally get to go on speaking engagements and meet my audience in real life and do my workshops and help them grow in their career. And then this is my business that I created. It's like I'm in that season where it's like I'm starting to calm down, but then I'm also just like I can't believe this is my life right now. Like I can't
Yeah.
believe that I'm lucky to do this and the opportunities that are coming. But I'm also still trying to figure out a schedule and figure like I every day I still wake up early and I still try to fit within the 9 to 5 and have that schedule, but working on holding myself accountable and just finding different ways to manage everything. Like I'm in a season where I'm trying to find an assistant or someone just to help me, and that's new for me because the ninth semester is my baby and I'm very picky when it comes to things with it. So to open it up to working with someone, it's something I'm trying to work on because it's like I
Yeah.
know I need the help, but it's like, oh, this is my baby. I feel very sensitive letting someone in,
Yeah.
but I'm in that reflective period too of just like, okay, this is my business. Like, what are the things that I need to thrive? Like, there are things that I need to get done so I can focus on the things that I really want to do. So I need to figure that out. So it's like I'm figuring out
Yeah.
the business, but I'm also just like, wow, like I don't have any more Sunday scaries. Like this is my life. Like I could take off today and that's okay. But then understanding too, like the consequences of, what happens when I don't work. Cause it's like, I can't blame anyone else but me. Like it's
Yeah.
me. So it's a
It
learning
truly is.
journey.
And it is. It is. And it's truly an eat what you kill kind of thing. As someone who's been into full time entrepreneurship for a little bit, I can totally resonate with what you're saying. And also, I think that when it comes to hiring someone out for your business, it is scary because that's your baby. Like no one knows my baby like I know my baby. But I think a nice reframe or mindset shift is if someone else is doing the logistical stuff, you can use your time and your energy and your your beautiful brain power to do the things that you do best in the business instead of things you don't want to do.
And what advice would you have as someone who has been doing this? Like advice for me?
Honestly, I would say, oh my gosh, make sure your life is well balanced. And so it's not all skewed towards your career, which career can overtake your life, especially as you're your own business owner. So take time. I see you on Soul Cycle, right?
Yes.
On Instagram. I see you on Soul Cycle.
Friday, yes.
God, I need to get into that. But I see you doing these things. I see you traveling. So it seems like you already have a very well balanced life. But it's been 3 weeks. But as you are in the beauty of everything, the speaking engagements and the brand partnerships and fostering a community, just make sure you are keeping that section of your life isn't overtaking your full life.
I needed that. Yeah. And then how do you
Yeah.
handle the logistical side of things and like do you work with someone or is it still just you handling everything?
What's so funny is I'm actually working on getting an intern right now. So I can actually tell you some resources to get one.
I love that.
And I'm sure, okay, also, I'm sure if you posted it to your audience, or maybe if someone's listening to this, you want
Hit
to
me
work with
up
Drake.
if you're listening. Please shoot your shot. Shoot all shots. Like
Yes, come with your best pitch. You know exactly what Jade said about
yes.
what she wants to pitch. Come with your best pitch and present why you would like to be an intern for the ninth semester. So, yes, guys, shoot your shot at Jade. And Jade, it's like you're America's Next Top Model. I have one final photo left in my hand. She will pick the best one and maybe you'll have the opportunity to intern for her. But we are coming to the end of our interview. Jade, you dropped so many gems. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. Are there any final pieces of advice that you would want to give to someone who is looking to follow in your career path or is looking for early career development help? Like, what's the number one piece of career advice you maybe wish you had received that is something you've learned in this season of your life?
It's okay to be multi passionate. And
Yeah.
this is something that at times I kind of felt embarrassed for how much I pivot in my career and how I'm always changing and wanting to do something. Like I felt like, why can't I just stick to one thing? And it was within this period of quitting my job and deciding to do this full time that I had to, it was a testament to just who I am in my career. Like, I don't have to have a linear career path. Like, it's okay for me to want to have different interests because every job I've had so far, I have learned something that I'm able to bring into the next role and I'm able to still work on in my life and understand that it's okay that, like, I can say, oh, I've had years of experience in this particular thing. Because, yes, in some ways I have. Like, I've had years of experience in marketing and years of experience of just like running a business and running a personal brand, but seeing the power of being so multi-passionate and having these different interests and how that makes me a stronger candidate. Like, I've walked so many different lives. I've had so many different side quests that has made up who I am professionally and personally. And it helps a lot with my confidence too. Like, I can be like, yeah, I worked in PR. Yeah, I worked in advertising. Yeah, I worked in these different things. And I'm learning something in each thing. And not a lot of
Yes.
people have it. Like, sometimes some people stay in the same role for years or same industry for years. And it's like, I want to learn it all. Like, for me, I low key would love to be a lawyer, but I cannot do law school. Everyone, I know so many people in law school, they're stressed. It's a lot of work, but if that was a side quest that I could do, I would have done it just to learn, just to be in the thick of it. So embrace the side of you that is interested in so many different things because that's where the real growth is. And
Yeah.
with that, like, in that same breath, understanding too, like, I'm making up my dream career. Like, I'm about to release a new series on my TikTok called Designing My Dream Career, where I talk about how I'm doing it, how I did it, the tips and tricks I learned along the way, and then incorporating my love for storytelling through The Sims. Because The Sims has been
Mhm.
a major thing in my life. Like, it's what I turn to for advice, for inspiration, just for fun, but just the timelines that I create in my Sims, like, sometimes it's like things that I want to do. And I want to share how this passion side hobby of mine helps influence me and motivate me when it comes to just the things that I want to do in my life, the things that I want to do in my career, and just kind of show how, like, your hobbies can really influence your life. Like, a
Yeah.
lot of my hobbies have influenced different career paths of mine, and it just makes you see the world in a different place. And for me as a creative too, this is me to show more of my creativity. Like, I feel like a lot of my content in the ninth semester has just been very early career, but my roots have always been in lifestyle content, and I want to be
Yeah.
able to incorporate that while staying in the core of, like, this is how you can navigate and create your career in your own unique way. Like, I talk a lot about creating your own work experiences and being multi passionate, and I want to show in my content in different ways how I'm actively doing that and to influence others to do the same. So it's exciting for me because it's just I'm tapping into new creative sides of myself and showing more of myself as a creative to my audience, and I want to connect with them more. I want to continue to motivate them and inspire them to do the same in their life. So it's okay to be multi-passionate.
Yeah.
It's your superpower. It's been a superpower of mine for my whole life, and I love it.
Yeah, no, and let me tell you, people are benefiting from you sharing your superpower and from you being a walking testament of what it looks like to be multi passionate and unabashedly share your gifts with the world. So
Thank you.
thank you for doing that.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Well, I think we are pretty much out of time today, but Jade, I absolutely loved our conversation. Obviously, you're a Titan on LinkedIn. People can find you there, but where else can people find you, connect with you, and yeah, just share away.
Yes, so you can find me at the ninth semester on TikTok, Instagram, and my new YouTube channel, which will incorporate more early career tips, resources, and then, of course, lifestyle content and just opportunities to just get deeper with my audience. And then you can also find me on my website, the9semester.com.
Amazing. Well, I know I'll be staying up to date and also tracking your progress and just also the series you're putting out. So, everyone, all of Jade's information is going to be included in the show notes. So you can just click there. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, talk about how much you love Jade and all of the things. But either way, I will see you next week. And thank you for listening to another episode. Bye.
Yes.